What's up, world? It's your boy Dot once again coming at you with my Common Sense podcast. What I wanted to do was I wanted to really do my Common Sense podcast on racism and how it affects the way we work in our society. First off, I want to let people understand that racism is not something that a lot of times is used properly. When you hear racism, majority of the time, racism does not mean a person who is prejudiced towards another race. Racism is a term which means dislike, hatred. It's like it's more vile than what people. So a lot of times you'll get into situations where I'll hear people call someone a racist. Now, understanding that a racist means someone with an intense hatred for a race. They have a plight against a race. Like they generally dislike a race. It's not a term which means a person is stereotyping or a person is prejudiced towards that's different. Prejudice can be a type of racism, but it's only a small part of it. A person who is prejudiced or has a preconceived belief about a race is not a racist. So that's first. Second of all, I think all races are prejudiced. I don't care if you're white, black, green, blue, red, everybody is prejudiced. Why everybody is prejudiced? Majority of us are prejudiced because that is our natural defense mechanism. It's the thing in us which allows us or makes it so makes it so we feel safe and we feel we can protect the people around us. And we're going to use information, no matter how abstract, no matter how obscene, no matter how asinine that information is, we're going to use it to our benefit. So, when a black person goes into to a bank to get a loan, and he sits down in front of the white person who he can see, who he already goes into there saying, I have to be on my best behavior because I'm a black man, and more than likely, whether this lady is the most open-minded person in the world, she already has a preconceived notion of the type of person I am based on societal norms that are created within the realm. We stay within the realm she which was her micro or macro system. Wherever she grew up, that's going to be her influences, and that's going to be her belief. Majority of white people tend, whether they are low, middle, or high class, majority of white people don't grow up around black people. They don't have an understanding over black people outside of the things that they see on the news and the things that they see in the media, which are all. When people say, "Well, the media needs to stop," first of all, we need to understand one thing about the media. The media is not there to be socially conscious. The media is there to entertain. So the media is only going to grab from each culture what they perceive is entertaining, or what they perceive is going to create entertainment from something else. The black person being the thug and the bad stereotype in majority of movies is because majority of times it's perceived as believable, because when people see danger, they see threat. That's the whole archetype for making anything. When you that's like asking, why do all bad guys in movies look scary? Because nobody wants to see a guy who looks like You will never go to a movie, a Hellraiser horror flick, and see a monster that looks like Pokemon, because they're less threatening. Same thing with white guys in movies. You always see the same serial killer white guy. He's always the white guy with the glasses, who's off to the side. You don't think those people get the same stereotypes from the same type of characters of them in movies? I know a lot of people who say, they don't hang around certain type of white people. A lot of, I have white and black friends who won't hang, who say, that guy looks like one of those perverts. You know where they get that from? From watching movies. They get that from watching movies and seeing the same character of that person depicted over. The guy who's a loner is always seen as the pervert. He's always seen as the crazy guy. You don't know what he's doing. You got some people in the basement. Have majority of us ran across a bunch of quiet people with people in the basement? No. We get our perceptions of reality based on media, which is so preposterously stupid that it doesn't even make sense. We're supposed to get our character from reality, from what we see. How many people love to say, well, you turn on the news, all you see is black people killing people. No, when I turn on the news, majority of the time, it's not about people killing people. So people killing people is not this epidemic that happens every 5 seconds. People kill you. When you turn on the TV, you might hear about 1 or 2 people being killed, depending on your area. My area is a bad area. I grew up in a bad area. I no longer live there. I was, blessed enough to move out. But, I was blessed and I worked hard enough to move out. But if you look at it, you'll see that if you look at the the certain, depending on where you come from, you might, I come from a bad area. And we get about a murder, probably like 1 or 2 murders a month. So you have to take that to a tame situation, to an area that's not bad. So the perception is, when you hear about crimes, there are always black people involved. Well, generally, black people are involved in those type of crimes because if you use your brain, majority of black people are lower income the majority of black people who commit crimes are low income people. And you know why they commit crimes? Not because they have to, but because they don't have a standard of living that tells them it's wrong to do so. So if a lot of black people in low income areas are taught that you get whatever you can get, whatever way you can get it. Because nothing in life is going to be easy for you and nothing in your life is going to be given. So a lot of these kids who are 24, 25 years old, 14, 15 years old, have been taught this their entire life. So when you turn on the TV, you're more likely to see a guy who's going to do, and the second, their circumstance a lot of times dictates that they do more. You know why lower income black people tend to steal more? Because they have a need to steal. White people, white person, and don't get it twisted. White people, low income white people steal just as much. But the problem with the situation is white people, lower class white people are the minority. They are not the majority, which is funny because a lot of times I see so much discrimination against lower class white people that it's damn near on par with lower class black people. But regardless, it's nowhere. It's not, and I don't mean as in they go tit for tat. I mean, there are a lot of bad stereotypes about low-income white people, but regardless, like I said, you look at it, if you look at it completely unbiased, just look at it for what it is, you will see that majority of the time when you see these crimes, they're because these people need to do that. Because these people have a need, or whether you want to call it a need or a want, they have to steal to get what they want. So a person who has what they want by just asking their parents would be a total dunce to go out and steal. It doesn't make sense for them to do so because they have no reason to do so. It only makes sense that a lower class person would be more prone to do something like that because when they want things, they have no other way of obtaining what they want. So it's very logical. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with socioeconomic status. Black people commit crimes more often because that's the way they're brought up. If you take a dog who's been bred and bred to fight, and then you put him in a environment where there's other dogs who are brought up the same way, there are going to be more fights. It's going to be more violent, it's going to be more intense, it's going to be more aggressive. Then if you got two housebred dogs who were never taught to fight and you put a whole bunch of them in there. That is the dichotomy of our society. Lower income people commit more crimes because are in more crimes because they're around more people who commit crimes, so they're more prone to get caught up in crime committing. You know, if a white person is not going to resort to selling drugs. You know why? Majority of middle class higher class white people don't commit crimes. Who sell they wouldn't know how to get they wouldn't be able to sell crack because they wouldn't be able to go to the neighborhood to sell crack because they would probably get robbed. So that's first. Second of all, they wouldn't know where to go to get the crack to sell it. They are not going to get a connect. They're not going to get someone who's going to sell them or give them crack, or who is even going to trust them enough to let them sell to them. So it has nothing to do with one race being black and the other race being white. It has everything to do with common sense. Why? Of course, black people are going to go to jail for selling drugs more. You know why? Because they're going to have more of an opportunity to sell drugs. So it makes more sense that they will go to jail for it. It doesn't make more. It has nothing to do with one race being black and the other race being white. That's why I hate these stupid people who try to sit up here and say that there is something to the black skin thing because black people tend to be more violent. It's like, one, that's not true. Two, just because this burns me the most. When you hear a white person say, well, you look at it on percentage wise of a population. Who gives a damn how small a population is? When you look at it with common sense, if a black person grows up, if a black person is almost 10 times more likely to grow up without any inheritance. That means he grows up in a world where he has nothing from the get-go. He doesn't have a house that his mom's going to leave him behind. He doesn't have a retirement plan, death, funeral, his dad died, leaves him money. That doesn't generally happen in the black community. Majority of the time, they're born in subsidized housing in low-income areas around other people in low-income areas. And guess what? When you grow up in those type of areas, it's a kill. I grew up in those type of areas, so I can speak on it. It's a lot of times you have to. It's like prison almost. I was brought up in a dichotomy where, when you're in a situation, you have to act a certain way in order to stay around. If I get in a fight, I have to win. If I don't win, I have to put up the damned enough fight that the next person watching will say, I'm not going to mess with that guy because even though he lost that fight, he can fight. That is the mindset of majority of people in the ghetto. It's kill or be killed. It's like, I have to do this. That's why people say, well, black people are naturally more athletic. It's another stupid comment. Black people are not more naturally athletic. Black people just tend to do more athletic stuff because majority of the time they don't have the resources to do things that are unathletic. So a black person is a better basketball player, not because he is biologically predisposed to be a better black basketball player. He's a better basketball player because he spends 90% of his free time when he gets off of school, not doing homework, not doing any of the things that these white kids are doing when they go home, which majority of the time it is jump on which you're starting to see this more now when you're starting to see the black culture kind of morph, and the black Hispanic cultures are kind of starting to blend together. It's starting to just become American culture, which is kind of a mixture of all things. But the point about what I'm trying to say is, black people are more athletic because when I grew up, we didn't have video games. I mean, I had a video game, but I'm saying majority of black people didn't have video games. We had to go out and play. And even though we did have video games, we only had like 1 or 2 games on it. So we couldn't spend the entire day playing video games because you would get bored. It's too bored. You only have 1 game, and majority of the time it's the game that came along with the console, and you usually just playing that until it gets bored, and then you go outside and you do that. You don't have, majority of the time they don't have cable, so they're not sitting around watching television. You know what I'm saying? They don't have toys. They don't have the things that people have where they can sit in the house. So what do for fun? They play sports. They get a football, a basketball, and they go out and they find a whole bunch of other kids who have nothing else to do, and they play football. They play throw 'em up. They play kill the carrier, throw 'em up, bust 'em up. They play all types of games and they develop. The reason why black people tend to be better basketball players is majority of the time they don't play. A black person goes to a court and will just start shooting until another black person gets there. Now, what are they gonna play? 5-on-5 with 2 people? No, they're gonna play 1-on-1. So they're honing their 1-on-1 skills by playing 1-on-1 90% of the time. So they're learning to dribble. They're learning to juke. They're learning to do all the things that are seen as predisposed to black people. The way I learned to juke so well, is because I used to play football. We didn't have teams because we didn't have enough people to have teams. So you know what we would do? We would play kill the carrier. That means that's when one person has the ball, there's no blocking, there's nothing. You just throw the ball back to one person and it's kill the carrier. Everybody tries to tackle that one person and he runs around, and when he gets tackled, he throws the ball up and the next person, and that's just how we played. We didn't play teams. When you see majority of white people play, what do? They go get a gang of friends, you for us, and we're gonna play teams. So they don't learn the same type of fundamental things that's why white people tend to be better quarterbacks. Not because they're predisposed because they're white. They tend to be better quarterbacks because white people usually are grown up in structured teams where there's 4 players, and they hike the ball and they throw, and they're used to throwing and playing in organized sports their entire life. They're used to following rules. Black people, and throw them up, bust them up, there are no rules. It's about who's the most talented. When you're playing 21 as a basketball player, when there's 1 basketball player and 8 people trying to stop him from scoring, there's no rules to that. You're just out there with your talent. That's why it seems like black people, when people look at it, it's like, why are black people so much more abrasive in the way that they play? They're so macho. They're like that because they grow up in a dichotomy where they're playing 21 and it's 28 people on one. It's 15, or I've been in games where it's 14, 15 guys on one guy. And he's saying, all y'all, I'm the best player out here. And it goes back to what I was saying, that killer be killed mentality. You have to promote yourself because no one else is going to do it. You out there with 14 other people who are saying they're better than you. So how do you set yourself apart? You say you're better than them, and then you prove it. And after you prove it, you rub it in their face so they'll never say it again. And that is why it seems like it's so disrespectful to white people, yet it's not disrespectful to black people, because we all say, if you want to keep me from talking, beat me. I'll beat you and I'll show you I'm better than you. If you can't beat me and shut me up, then don't sit there and bitch about me talking, because I'm better than you. I can play better than you, and I'm showcasing it. And if you don't like me talking, then stop me from talking. But white people, they don't grow up like that. They grow up in a thing of mutual respect. We're both playing. They grow up into a world where everybody has a mother or father who's always around, protecting, making sure right things are said, the right things are done. And I don't even want to say just white people, because I think that's kind of prejudice to just say white people. Just middle to upper class people. Because my wife, she grew up in a middle to upper class neighborhood. So her way of thinking is a lot different than mine. So not so much a prejudice race thing, it's more so like I said, social economic thing. Because if you look at a lot of baseball players who are white, who grow up, who generally come from low economic status, they tend to be more like the African American players. They're more abrasive because it's harder for lower income white people to not be influenced by lower income black people, because lower income white people tend to grow up in areas that are closer to lower income black people. So a lot of times when you see this, so they like to call them white trash and all this and that, those are the people that generally grow up around black people. Because those type of people, they generally start to understand, and they start to realize, I got more. And people are like, oh, he's a wigger. The guy's not a wigger. He's just growing up in the same thing with a white or black person who acts white. He's not an Uncle Tom. If you're a black person who grows up in a black neighborhood, in a white neighborhood, who are you going to have more in common with? You're going to have more in common with white people. So you're going to feel more comfortable with white people. Does not make you an Uncle Tom. Same thing with a white person who grows up around more black people. He's going to have more in common with the white people, with the black person. No dad, having to struggle, lights getting cut off. What is he going to have in common with the white? What does Eminem have in common with Justin Timberlake? Nothing. He has nothing in common with Justin Timberlake. What does Carlton have in common with Mos Def? They have nothing in common. They don't grow up the same. They both, it's so retarded to call a person an Uncle Tom or a wigger, because they choose to act like the people that they grew up around. Now I know there's exceptions to the rule. You'll find black people who grew up in low income areas who act white, but still they may still have more in common with the people that they feel more comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? Because the values that were taught in their household, even though it was a low economic status, they could have the same values taught to them from the people that they grew up with, regardless of their socioeconomic status. So the basic point of what I'm trying to get across here is we need to understand how race shapes our society, because we are getting to a point where we're starting to not understand that even though racism is not as prevalent, does not mean it's not a deciding factor. Point being, if you're in a situation like the Trayvon Martin situation, it is paramount. It is so paramount that you understand the difference between white and black. Because when you look at a situation like the Trayvon Martin case, you have to point out certain factors that go unnoticed. One, a black person, it is harder for a white person to see a black person as a victim. Therefore, I find it really, really hard for them to be unbiased in a jury. I think it's ridiculous that a white person who has no experience with black people, or very little experience with black people, can never be able to be unbiased, because her opinion of black people are going to be based on stereotypes by the media and news. So they're not going to, they don't have the experience, the requisite experience to be able to be unbiased in the case. They should never be able to be in a jury, because the whole point of a jury is to decipher evidence unbiasedly. How can you decipher evidence unbiasedly when you're a white person who grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly white and don't know any black people? Of course, and people say that, and they say the lady who went with George Zimmerman, oh gosh, that lady's racist. Like, she's not racist. She is just incredibly ignorant. She felt sorry for George Zimmerman because that is the person she could actually put herself in the position. She couldn't put herself in Trayvon Martin's position. She's never had to. She's never going to understand what he goes through. And she's always not going to care about what he goes through, because at the end of the day, she doesn't need to. So when you she's not saying, she doesn't hate Trayvon Martin. She just doesn't care. She doesn't care about Trayvon Martin. And if the whole point of the argument is to try to resonate with the jury, you're not going to resonate with her, because no matter what you say, she's always going to have she's going to understand the pain of the person who looks at a black person and sees a threat. You know why? Because she's a white person, and when she looks at a black person with a hoodie, she sees a threat. So she's going to always understand his stance or his mindset more than she's going to understand Trayvon Martin's. Because all she's going to say is it's a tragedy that this kid got killed because he wasn't one of the bad ones. But she's not going to say Zimmerman was wrong. You know why? Because she doesn't believe he was wrong. She believes he made a logical assumption based on the situation. And she's going to ignore everything to the contrary. You know why? Because she understands, and her feelings are going to resonate with the guy, because she's probably heard so many times that people are racist, and she's always been the person arguing counter to that. That people are not racist, that it's just that she's probably been in so many situations where her ignorance has made her come across as being racist when she's not racist. She's just incredibly ignorant and doesn't care about black people. She doesn't have any feelings toward black people. She doesn't hate them and she doesn't love them. She just doesn't care. So when she makes decisions and she opens her mouth and says ignorant things, she just like Donald Sterling. He says ignorant things not because he's racist. He just doesn't care. He doesn't care how he comes across to black people. He doesn't care how he comes across to white people. He's just a person who's extremely ignorant. And that's why I always say, when you point out and you call a person racist, you lose your value. You lose the point of what you're trying to get across. Your point is, this person is ignorant. They are so ignorant that but when you start saying people should lose their jobs, now I think you're overstepping. When you start saying a person demands the job should be lost because of something that they feel, then I think you're starting to tap. I don't care if a person is a KKK member. He has a right to do whatever the hell he wants. If you have no track record of him ever doing anything remotely racist or anything like that, which you can't say about Donald Sterling, but if a person is a KKK member and they're able to unbiasedly do their job, and you have no record of them ever being biased or unbiased, biased towards black people, towards white people against black people, then that person has every right to keep their job, because they have a right to do whatever they want in their free time. So my case in point is, white people need to understand that black people are tired of being in situations, because the majority of juries are going to be white. You know why? Because the majority of people in America are white. So white people need to understand that black people are always going to be in situations where the deck's stacked against them, because majority of the time they're going against people who are not going. They're in trial, and the people who decide their fate have nothing in common with them. They're not their peers. They're not people who are going to resonate with anything they have to go through or anything that they've done. Because these white people who are sitting in the thing are generally not the same type of people that as the person that the whole joke of it being a jury of your peers is ridiculous, because they're not. They're not juries of their peers, and they are. And the most important thing in proving a case is believability. And if you go into a case and you already have no believability based on your skin color, and and based on the fact that majority of these people see you as a criminal already, then you already have the deck stacked against you. What black people need to understand is that white people are not, just because a white person is ignorant doesn't mean they hate black people. Just because they make statements that are ignorant does not make them bad people. They're not evil. They're not bad. They're just people who are ignorant. They don't have the same respect that you may have for black people, because they don't understand black people. They don't understand why a person they're going to say a person is a thug when they say certain things and they do certain things and they look black. They're going to say it because that is what they see as a thug. It's not that they don't care that you're black to them. That's beside the point. What the most important thing to them is they're black. You know, that they fit the archetype of a thug, and when they see a black person, they're always gonna see thug. But anyways, that's my podcast. Let me know what you think. Comment, subscribe. All right.